We all know there are a million different Sonic characters, many of which have either been forgotten or completely abandoned over the years. If there are any characters that are even more forgotten than the rest, I'd certainly say Bark the Polar Bear is one of them. I hardly see anyone discuss this guy, but it's probably for a good reason. He hasn't appeared in many games, and to be frank, he doesn't really have an insanely deep backstory or personality, but honestly, I find his design to be really charming, and he fits well with the rest of the classic cast. There weren't any big and burly Sonic characters in the series until Bark was introduced, and he plays that role well. Plus, I absolutely love his green scarf with his orange and red hat. I mean, just look at him. He's adorable. Anyway, as I'm sure most people know, Bark the Polar Bear made his debut in Sonic the Fighters, an AM2 arcade fighting game released in 1996. My suspicion is that he was created to serve as a heavy character, a type of character that is seen in many other fighting games. They're usually classified by their slow speed and high damage attacks. Since the game doesn't feature anyone else that would fit that character type, I can imagine that they decided to create Bark for this purpose. And compared to the rest of the cast, he definitely stands out quite a bit. He's the only one that is incapable of ducking, and he has some of the highest damaging moves in the entire game. Many would also classify him as a grappler, as his grab game is one of his most prominent aspects. He actually has more variations of grab than any other character. So overall, I'd say he's a really cool addition to the game, and he's my main, so that of course means he's automatically amazing. Something I don't see a lot of people talk about is Bark's beta design. It actually looked quite different early on in development, and this can only be seen in a few obscure screenshots that are available on Sonic Retro. Take a look for yourself. These were taken during the Arcade Operators Union Amusement Expo in 1996, where an early build of the game was premiered, when it was only 50% completed according to this image found in the final ROM. His fur was entirely white, which was probably to make him look more like an actual polar bear. He's also missing his signature scarf, and his hat and hair are slightly different from the final versions too. I can definitely see what they were going for here, but to me the final design is much more iconic and eye-catching, so I'm glad they decided to change it. However, it's still very cool to see. Sonic the Fighters actually had a series of plushies released that I believe you could only obtain from UFO catchers in Japan. Bark was included in this set, and it seems to be the only official merchandise he's ever received, unless you want to count this official Sonic the Fighters t-shirt, which features Bark on it. The plush is an incredibly rare item, with recent listings going as high as $2,000. I don't think I'm crazy enough to spend that much on Bark merch, but the detail on it is seriously great. I'd love to own it myself someday, just to say I own something Bark related. There's also a bootleg version of Bark that was produced in Thailand, along with the rest of the cast. I wouldn't really count it, but it is genuinely terrifying, so I'm making you see it too. I'll keep this brief since most people seem to be aware of this fact already, but Bark, as well as Bean, both made an appearance in Fighters Megamix for the Sega Saturn. It's a bit of an obscure fighting game that's a crossover between a lot of different 3D arcade games by Sega. Bark carries over a lot of moves from Sonic the Fighters, and actually features a rather cool costume that makes him look like Santa. In Japan, there was an official guide for Fighters Megamix released, and in it we actually get a little bit more insight into Bark's background personality. It reads, "A polar bear who appeared in the 1996 arcade game Sonic the Fighters. North Island's #1 snowboarder. He is blunt and quiet, but has a gentle and loving heart. He's actually a shy guy." The mentioning of a North Island is curious to me because this location isn't referenced anywhere else in Sonic media, but it seems to be Bark's home, and maybe even where Aurora Icefield is located? Who knows? Bark also has a small cameo in the Shenmue series, appearing as a capsule that can be obtained from the Sonic set machines found in different areas of the game.
I know this.
Another obscure thing that not many people seem to know about Bark is that he actually has his own vocal theme. It's a remix of Black Bed, which plays in Aurora Icefield, Bark's Sonic the Fighter stage. The song is titled Fairy of AIF, which sounds weird until you realize that the AIF actually stands for Aurora Icefield, which is the name of Bark's stage. It also happens to be sung by Naofumi Hataya, who helped work on a plethora of other soundtracks for Sega games. Pretty neat. Thankfully, Bark made a brief but very welcome return in Sonic Mania. Although he was technically an illusion created by the Heavy Magician, it was great to see him in action again. He doesn't do much besides pound his fists on the ground and make rubble fall from the ceiling, but as a Bark fan, I will take literally anything at this point. Bark definitely isn't a very fleshed out or complex character, but to me he's a character that has a lot of potential. Perhaps he could have had his own title where he explores North Island and snowboards during certain parts. For now, however, Sonic Team seems content with just keeping him obscure, as his most recent in-game appearances are both anniversary titles. That being said, there might just be a glimmer of hope after all. He's recently featured in artwork posted by the official Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account, and I have to say, it's pretty glorious. Perhaps Bark's future isn't so dim after all. Thanks for watching, and don't be shy like Bark. hit that subscribe button, because I'll definitely be making more videos in the future like this one, and you don't want to miss it. Stay cool. Also, just want to say, Super Bark is definitely canon. Look at him transform, right there, and he even uses 8 Chaos Emeralds. Come on, it's real.